Let's talk about Big Mick becoming the manager from Bruce Rioch, but then his first full season in charge was the last season at the Old Den and your last full season at the club. You said Johnny Goodboy and Jamie
Makeway.
They had a good partnership. Obviously, Malcolm Allen was coming back from an injury. Ian Bogie as well was a good player.
Yeah.
And we had a good go. We came close again that year, didn't we? Just missed out on the playoffs towards the end.
Was it? We just missed out on the fourth, so we made it on
seventh. We come seventh in the
first
season.
Year.
First season with Bruce, we lost in the playoffs to Brighton. Second season, Bruce got sacked. McCarthy takes over.
Yeah.
Third season, the last season at the Old Den, 92-93. Big Mick. We're knocking teams over for fun. The boys were saying the other day, Jamie Makeway. Sorry, Jamie Makeway and Johnny Goodboy. They were scoring a lot of goals. We was beating teams, but we did fall away towards the end. Was you like starting to realise you was getting other interest from clubs at that point?
Oh no, never. I never knew of any interest. I literally wouldn't have even that thought wouldn't have even entered my head. And I remember reading something actually. It might have been my first year. I won't spend too much time going back. But after that first year, I made 5 appearances. I used to, the No One Likes Us magazine. Do you remember it used to be printed back then? It was great. I loved that magazine. It was brilliant. Couldn't wait to get my hands in it. And I got to know the people who were kind of published it. The Albatross. I don't know if you remember the Albatross. You had any dealings with him, but he looked after the actual magazine. He sold it. And he was a great character. Big, obviously, Millwall supporter. And he wrote in an article, people used to write different things. Very funny, great humour in there, And at the end of that season, he wrote a small addendum. It might have been talking about a number of the players, giving them how the season went, etc. And he wrote a couple of lines that mentioned me. I'd only played a couple of games, obviously. And they said about Kenny Cunningham, great to see him make his debut. Without doubt, a Millwall stalwart for the next 10 years. And it wasn't much. He didn't do only a couple of lines, but that kind of, I remember reading that thinking, it kind of knocked me back a little bit. And I thought, bloody hell, wow. Imagine I could actually still be playing the top, actually still playing professionally. And even here at Millwall, spending 10 years here. And even that gave me a little bit of confidence, gave me a big lift. Even after 5 games, somebody saw me playing, thought, he's got a bit of something he can offer. He could be potentially a good player, could stay at the club for a long period of time. So that was really it. So that was my mindset from my whole period at the football club till I left, was just Millwall games, getting better, and obviously getting into the top division. So it's really that. And certainly at no point was I ever thinking, right, the division. Even after those disappointments, missing out, I never ever remember feeling that first year with Mick, feeling I've missed out. Another year I won't be getting I've missed out on the Premiership. Do I need to move sideways, or maybe do I need to instigate a move? Not that I would have known how to do that. Anyway, it was always the case, right, next year, let's go again. And I think the reason was because I was enjoying my football so much. I've spoken about the camaraderie there, great atmosphere and environment. That's the environment that Mick created, bringing the players and himself, Taff, we pulled it all together. It was great. Younger lads there, a lot in common with them. Those young lads from the U team coming up, great buzz there. And we were playing good football. We were enjoying our football, Dan. And I think if you speak to the Millwall supporters then, I think they'll say that, because the perception from outside, maybe people looking at Millwall, maybe Millwall sides previously, up and at them, channel balls, seconds, you know what you're going to get, pretty Neanderthal stuff. Well, it certainly wasn't that. Certainly not after the 2 years under Mick. Like I said, we played different systems, formations, had some very good footballers in the team. The ones that you've mentioned already, young lads coming through. Ian was a left back. Dawsey was a lovely footballer. He stayed for another. Yeah, great footballer. Andy May, brilliant, very underrated player as well. Kept things simple, good football and brain. So all over the pitch. I think that was the reason why I probably never had those thoughts, Dan, because I was loving me football. I was really loving football and just always looking forward to what was coming next, the kind of next year.
It's an interesting insight, actually, because you was obviously a brilliant player for us. And I don't even think you've played it down. I'm not sure you realised how good you was for us. I do other videos, and I've done an all-time 11 video. You've made that video as the best all-time right back. It's funny to hear, like you say, I'd run and get the South London Press, or I'd get the No One Likes Us, and they said something nice, and you wanted that 7+ in the South London Press. Would you have been affected by if you would have got a bad comment or a bad rating? Because I don't think you realise how good you actually were.
Yeah, I was. I wasn't a big one for introspection, to be honest with you. Later in my career, lots of football psychologists came into the game and were part of the background, and players were actively encouraged the group and individuals, spend time with these people. And from a psychological point of view, get yourself in a better place, self-confidence, the whole thing. But I always I couldn't bring myself to go through the door, because as a younger player, I didn't have that. I really didn't have that confidence. And you're absolutely right. Not that I'll be reading too much about myself. I wouldn't be reading about myself in the nationals. But occasionally, the South London Press, I would, and I would run to that just for the report. And there would be occasions, and it wouldn't be like having a go at me. It would be a case, Kenny couldn't have made a mistake, or, Kenny couldn't have caught out of position, and it would, maybe hurt's the wrong word, but it gets through my skin. It really would, you know what I mean? So that was just an indication. I probably didn't even realise at the time. I hadn't got that kind of self-confidence. Those kind of things would hurt me. Even games, Dan, I remember the first game at the New Day, and I'm sure we played Southend. Barry Fry was in charge, and I had a load of family who came over for the game. And I was a little bit nervous that there was family there actually watching me. And I would have been 18. This might have been would have been on the Mick, wouldn't it? You mentioned the first year then. I would have been 22 and that. So I had a bit of family over looking at the game. And I remember Ricky Otto was playing left wing for Southend, and he was a very fast player, very dynamic, aggressive. You know what I mean? Playing very well at the time. And I remember being very worried about the game. I got off to a bad start. Made a bad decision. He got past me once, and it really kind of affected me confidence for the rest of the game. I wouldn't get tight and kept backing off too much. I was afraid of getting too close and getting done 1v1s, and it kind of really affected me, that one game in particular. So it wasn't a reoccurring thing with me in terms of, people take the mick out of me about my goal scoring record. It's still to this day. I mean, career goals. I think there was actually a thing published when I was at Birmingham. Tony Hibbert at Everton made the back pages. He scored a goal for Everton. And I was like, Tony Hibbert scores a goal, his first goal in 300 odd games. Only surpassed by Millwall and Super Blue Kenny Cunningham, who went an unbelievable 400 games with that, because my career only scored one league goal. People say he only scored one career goal. I always dispute it and say, well, you're wrong. I actually don't tell them. I always get a bit annoyed, and people give me a bit of stick. How can you only score one career goal? And I always come back with, get your facts right. I scored 2. What do you mean? Where was your other goal? I go, well, dig it out. I'm not going to tell you. Go and dig it out. And I said, I'll give you a clue. I scored for Millwall in Europe. Bang. There you go. What? Millwall? We saw Millwall never played in. And they just can't figure it out. So basically what it was, you wouldn't even know it yourself. His second goal was actually scored in the Anglo-Italian Cup from Millwall against Charlton, funny enough.
Anglo-Italian Cup, Jesus Christ, what a blast from the past.
Tenuous link. It's a very tenuous link. It was Millwall, Charlton, and one Italian side. That's how it was, like a round robin, 3 teams in there. There was more that's going on, if you remember. The competition never lasted. There was killings going on. There was like brawls everywhere, like the tunnels in Italy. It was all going on. It never lasted. It lasted about 2 years. But I scored at the Old Den, in an Anglo-Italian game against Charlton. Bob Boulder bobbled over his left hand, went in the corner about 25 yards. So that was actually my second career goal. But the reason I mentioned it, I only scored 2 career goals, but I probably had about 4 shots on target my whole career. So I never took a shot either. And when I think back, it was definitely a part of it, Dan. I never took a shot, because when I got into the box around the last third of the pitch, I was always thinking, set someone up. Set someone up for a shot, a cross. And it was almost like removing response. I didn't want the responsibility of taking a shot on the pressure. That type of thing. Oh, if I shank it, if I mishit it. So I think that fed into it a little bit. Someone used to say to me, you get in some great positions, shoot. You put on your left foot, have a shot. You're 8 yards out. But I'd always look for the pass to set someone up, which I enjoyed. I got a real buzz. I was setting people up. Oh, there you go, Teddy, put that one in, back post. Happy days. Used to absolutely love that. But never really had the confidence. That was probably an underlying thing. Probably didn't realise it too much at the time. But looking back, I think that was always there, certainly through my career at Millwall, Dan in particular, and probably to a smaller extent even when I signed for Wimbledon. But it was always there, that feeling of, oh, I'm a little bit out of my depth here. I'm gonna get found out. That bit of a feeling from that first year. I had a 1-year contract on peanuts that I was heading home.
Yeah.
Back to Dublin on the Irish ferry at the end of the year. Maybe a little bit of that kind of stayed with me. Maybe it wasn't a bad thing, Dan, because it meant as if I couldn't take it for granted. I knew I had to work hard. I had to put the hours in. Back and get home, go home. Lads used to scream at me going into their cars. You boring bastard, get you. You got no life, Cunningham, get home, your digs. Whatever. That, have a game of chess with your landlady. Whatever it was, but that was it, driving it, I think. I've got to improve. Got to improve my heavy left foot's got to get better. Got to get quicker, stronger. Got to learn everything. So that kind of drove me, which is probably a good thing. But there was a flip side to that as well, Dan. And just in terms of that kind of self-confidence. I saw with players later in my career really had that self-confidence, could really carry themselves, thinking probably better than they were. Don't get me wrong. You used to look at them.
Yeah, this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, imagine you had confidence. Imagine it.
But I used to admire them because I used to think, you know what? In between your head, you think, and that's the most important place. It's not really important with the manager, teammates, people in the crowd, the presenter on the TV, your man that's out on the press giving the marks out or whatever. All that really matters is what's registering between your two ears. If you think you're the greatest player in the world and your confidence is rock high level and that you can't get knocked down, do you know what? Maybe it's not a little bit of that's not a bad thing either. So
true.
Yeah, I never quite got on top of that, but I did recognise it after a long period, looking back. But like I said, it didn't hold me back. Hopefully, it didn't hold me back too much.
You're one of 2 career goals. The one that you've been credited with, obviously, the one that people don't remember is the Anglo-Italian. But that was for Millwall as well, wasn't it?
What league goal?
The league goal, yeah.
And the good thing about scoring only the minimum amount, probably the least amount of goals in Premiership or football in history, is that you can go through every one of them in great detail, and people don't begrudge it. Kenny Sheridan can have these conversations, talk about every single goal he scored in great detail. I can, for obvious reasons.
Come on in.
The
stage is yours.
Yeah, my only goal for Millwall was down in Fratton Park against Portsmouth. It was a league game. And don't ask me why. I was up for a corner. And I never went up for corners. Very rarely went up for corners because, for the obvious reason, I wasn't particularly that great head over the ball. I hadn't great spring. I wasn't actually that brave in attacking ball. I developed a good head of the ball eventually. But in terms of attacking corners, I never had. I know some lads go in there, smash, broken nose, the whole shebang, just don't see danger, do they? Those type of defenders, they're the ones clearly to score the goals. But I didn't have that, so I never went up. So whatever reason I was up there, it might have been last few minutes of the game, Ken. Last resort, get your arse up. So anyway, ball came in and made a little token run, and I remember half thinking, hello, I've got half a chance to get my head on this. So it was almost like a diving header of sorts. Kind of threw me head at the last minute, but at the same time, somebody threw their boot in my face, caught me in the face as I headed the ball. So I didn't actually see the ball go into the net. So I hit the deck. I was kind of spinning a little bit. I thought, oh no, my nose is everywhere. I was a little bit. So I kind of stayed down for the best part. Could have been the best, really milking it down. Could have been the best part of a minute now.
You didn't even get. So you're going to tell me you didn't even get the chance to celebrate your only league goal ever?
But what I did remember was when my head cleared and I kind of realised what had happened. I kind of knew I've scored here. I was like, right, I've had a kick in the face. I think I'm all right. My nose is still in the same position. And I do remember the first thing coming into my head was, oh, this is going to be embarrassing now. I've got to run. Everybody else is back in position. I was like, oh, kick. I'm going to run down the length of the pitch by myself. And obviously acknowledge the Millwall supporters. There wasn't a crowd. I couldn't dive into a crowd like a lifter, so I must throw a blanket over me. So I do remember thinking, oh no, this is crazy. This is horrible. Probably a bit of self-confidence that I'm talking about. But eventually I got up. And the Millwall supporters, as I ran back down, they're in the top right-hand side. And we always had a good, decent bit of support. And Portsmouth would have been a good game.
Yeah.
The atmosphere would have been great down there. So I got the old standing ovation from the Millwall supporters. It was probably a little token gesture, thumbs up.
Thanks, cheers.
Yeah. Exactly, that was it. I don't know if the goal meant anything. I can't remember the end of the game, but but that was it. That was my only goal for the football club.
Um,
It's special though. It is special. I cherish the both of them.
I can't believe you didn't even get the chance to properly celebrate it.
If you ever put the quiz together, that's your bonus question. That Anglo-Italian game. Kenny Cunningham scored very. I would have thought because the attendances were woeful those games.
So it was. I remember a cup being called the Anglo-Italian Cup, and I do remember they said it. Us playing Cholton, and thinking to myself as a kid, why is it called the Anglo-Italian Cup? Was it ever team Brescia? So did you have to go? Did you? Was it Brescia?
I don't know if it was. Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember if it was Brescia. I never went over to Italy. Funnily enough,
So
I never played the game over there.
Was there an away leg to play in Italy?
I don't know whether it was a case they kind of dovetailed. I don't think you played every team home and away. I don't think it might be the case you just played one game at home, one game away. It was a strange little combo. And like I said, it didn't last very long. The fans didn't buy into it. You know, the attendance was pretty poor. Probably why nobody knows who scored the bloody goal. And like I said, it was all off for some reason. Literally, because I remember talking to lads in Birmingham, they played, and they went, "Oh my God, it was absolute killings!" Like when we went over there to Italy at the time. So it didn't last. But I'll be absolutely amazed if anybody got a trivia question, got that one. I'll tell you another good one. I had a conversation years ago. Someone said to me about, because he said it lends in what you're saying about Mick's second season. We went to the New Den, because the first ever game at the New Den was a pre-season game. It was against Bobby Robson. Bobby Robson brought Sporting Lisbon over, and that was the opener for the new stadium, wasn't it?
Yes, right.
It was great. The atmosphere was absolutely rocking. And I used to keep a framed picture for absolutely donkey's years. I had a framed picture of the team that played that night. And I tell you what, Dan, if you weren't at the game that night and didn't know the starting 11, I'd be amazed if anybody would be able to guess the starting 11 that night against Sporting Lisbon. It was like licorice all sorts. Literally need to piece it together. I'd be amazed if anybody got that team either. And funny enough, I had the garage somewhere in the house years ago, and it bloody fell, and the glass cut into the actual picture and sliced it.
I've seen the picture on social media 1,000,000%, because I think our reserve goalkeeper is in the photo, but he hasn't got a kit on. He's got like a hoodie on or something. I've seen it on social media. I'll send it to you, see if I can find it. But before we got to the new Den, you'd obviously by this point, 1993, you'd been a Millwall player for a long time. You sort of didn't grow up at the old Den, but that's all you knew. We leave the ground. How did that feel to leave the old Den the final day? 3-0 home defeat to Bristol Rovers.
I was devastated. We left that stadium. I hate the fact that we've lost all of those stadiums, actually, those old stadiums. The advent of it. I know Post Hills, but the Premier League. But for me, it wasn't the only answer to, build out all these old stadiums and build all these new theatre stadiums. For me, it's not the same. We've lost something. We'll never get it back. So the Den's probably a good example of that. I mean, it had its faults from a structural point of view, but you'd never replicate it. In terms of atmosphere there, it was absolutely a legend. I actually loved their Overton Combine. I remember playing reserve team football, which I did for majority of that first year when I came. Tuesday afternoon, used to trot out underneath the cold blow lane. The tunnel used to come out, behind the goal onto the pitch. And there was only about maybe 100, 150 people there. Oh, magic. Absolutely magic. I absolutely loved that place. And it didn't have to be full, Dan, to really, get that atmosphere. Like 3/4 full midweek there under the floodlights. Absolutely rocking. I absolutely loved it. It was a shame. It was a shame. I can understand the practical reasons the whole shebang, but for me, you'll never convince me. Millwall, I'd say the same for Upton Park, the bowling ground for me. I'd say the exact same. I drove past there about 1.5 years ago, Upton Park. I'm not being funny. I actually got a bit of a gulp. I remember we played there with Millwall. Actually, funny, Jamie Makeway got a couple of goals I'm talking about. I think it was 2-2 we drew there. And it was the same there, the atmosphere there. I know the rivalry. Forget all about that rivalry. The atmosphere there was amazing. I loved it. Millwall there, way support. The same when they came to the old Den. And funny enough, I remember the last time we played West Ham at the old Den, I remember talking to Alvin Martin on a few occasions. I bumped into him media something years ago. And he said, "Oh, yeah, I remember you." He said, "You took a dive. You took a dive at the old Den. Last time we played there at West Ham, he was playing. Obviously, he must have been quite old." And I'd forgotten all about it. And when he mentioned it, I remembered it. And what it was is, made a little overlap. got into the box, kind of running out of ideas, tripping over my feet. And he like dangled the leg. He was getting a bit old at the time when he just dangled the leg out. And I remember thinking, you know what, I could jump over this, but you know, I'm not. So obviously taking the contact, as they say in the modern game, you know, minimal contact. So going over his leg and getting the penalty, which we scored, we might have won the game 2-1.
Trying to get the fullback Cunningham in. That's a penalty. Robson bringing down the fullback just inside the box. West Ham are claiming that it's a dive. So Mr. Morton does have a reputation for giving penalties, but I'm sure what he sees, he gives. David?
You only get them if you're the home side.
Well,
the boy Robson's made contact with the ball and the boy's gone over his legs.
Well, here's Malcolm Allen with a chance to put Millwall in the lead. And does so.
Well, yeah, but those games and that stadium, because the capacity wasn't huge, was it, Dan? The capacity wasn't that great, and you were a bit restricted and whatever. People used to stand. Remember, we used to stand on the hill in the corner there, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you used to get a view of the ground. And I actually remember that last year you were talking about. What I was actually disappointed about was the last game of the season. Mick left me in the stand. He actually gave a couple of the young lads a run out because there was nothing at stake. Dan, we'd missed out. And I think possibly Paul Manning, a young kid at the time, he gave him his debut, which was great. And it was the right thing to do. But I remember being a little bit at the time because I knew it was the last game. Oh, I'm not going to be playing. So I was a bit gutted, actually. I remember going to the game and, you know, there was all the kind of history around it. People knew, big crowd and the whole thing. But you know what, Dan, I'm not being funny. About 2 minutes after the final whistle, I was thinking to myself,
thank fuck I weren't out there.
Thanks for not putting me in the half pitch. For not being funny. I was looking at Andy Roberts, right, sprinting down the pitch, right, and he was literally, there must have been about 20 supporters on his back, but ripping his kit off, and Andy was a strong boy. Funny, by the time he got to the tunnel and up into the changing rooms, he literally had his slip, he had his socks, and his boots when he went up the tunnel into the dressing room. That was literally fans just going mental. They wanted a bit of a souvenir, and that was all the players. But I do remember thinking, I had no chance. I was find my way off that pitch. 10,000 people on the street, on the pitch. But it was sad. You know, the goalpost came down, people were on there. But I must admit, the overriding feeling was a bit gutted. I know the new stadium went over there, yeah, nice and shiny, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But no, not for me. No, for all its warts, I'd still be there. I'd still be there today. And I'd say the same for all the stadiums. The old Dell at Southampton, been to their new stadium. Yeah, lovely, ticks all the boxes, but no way. Pride.
The old school ones are so much better, mate, aren't they?
Oh, honest to God, just so close. That chicken run down in West Ham, they're going to pick the ball up, throw in, be kind of, oh, we're going to take one here. But it was all part of it. You know, it was amazing. It just lent itself. Every one of them those stadiums was different. Had its own little feel, its own little magic. I can't see it nowadays, and I've gone to a lot of the grounds now in terms of doing a bit of media work or whatever. And do you know what? Yeah, you get yourself a nice fucking goujon and chip like in the media centre at half time, and a Ben and Jerry's or whatever, like ice cream. But
it's not the same, is it?
No, it's a shame. And do you remember the line on the stand that was that the last game? Honest to God, I must have spent most of that game looking up, thinking, "Oh, please God, no! It's gonna go any minute." Honestly, I couldn't believe that.
I know.
That was the biggest relief that whoever was in that young fella was in. Did you ever find out who was in that? Who was wearing that? Must have been.
Funnily enough, I saw someone post it on one of the Millwall History Facebook groups the other week. For the younger people who are watching, they might wonder what the fuck we're talking about. So the last day at the old there, the guy dressed in the worst. He looked like the line out the Wizard of Oz, didn't he? He had the worst fancy dress. He got on the roof of the halfway line, and that's. I mean, look, we love that stadium, but it didn't look the safest and most stable of things at the best of times, didn't it? You got a 16-stone geezer dressed as a lion crawling along it on the last day.
we never came off that. I mean, I'll never know. I was so relieved. I was relieved. Andy Roberts got off the pitch, and he obviously made it down off the stand. That was the two most important things of that day.
Oh,
but Anglo Lane, like I remember, so say moments there. I remember Coventry being there. Was it Coventry we played? I'm sure it was. And they had a goalkeeper sent off. It might have been Rizovic went off. Might have been injured. I don't know what it was. He might have had a substitute keeper on the bench at that stage. I remember looking at him thinking, they were defending the Coldblow Lane, so he went off. I think he might have broke his arm or something. And looking at their two centre halves, thinking, oh, their big lads is going to go and have mad advantage here. And all of a sudden, David Speedy, top off, grabbed the glove, Scottish international. Maybe the old supporters remember him. Very a Scottish player, aggressive, horrible little game. Great fella to have on your side, though. Good goal scorer and stuff, but aggressive, good footballer. You know, mad Scotsman, that type. Like, but he was like, yeah, give me the gloves. 5'6".
I was about to say, he was really short, David Speedy, wasn't he?
Coldblow Lane, yeah, I'll have it. I'm having some of that. Gloves on, straight in. He was getting pelters when he walked in. I was walking into the penalty box, and I was like, in awe of him, thinking, oh my God, fair play to you. And I literally mean he was getting pelters. I know I was getting slung from the goal. It was all sorts, like, and he was, come on, that it. Boom, boom, is that all you've got? Rah, rah, rah. You know, he wasn't shying away from it. Yeah, come on, then, you, I'll have you, you, come on. There was plenty of that going on. And I was thinking, this is like amazing. I would have, the game had got underway. I just couldn't take my eyes off him. But between that time and the end of the game, the final whistle blew. And in that period of time, it wasn't very long. You might have been in goal for maybe half an hour, 20 minutes. But to a man, he was applauded off the pitch.
Oh, really?
Everybody in that stand behind the goal applauded him off. And it was actually a nice thing, almost sentimental. I mean, I watched it again. I thought, wow. And he kind of, there was that acknowledgement, the supporters, we've given it to you, but you know what? You've taken it, you've given it back, boom, boom, and a bit of mutual respect there. Yeah, clapped them off the pitch.
It must have been like, you're telling the stories now as if you're still mesmerised by it, like a young, shy boy from Ireland to be thrown into London life and what it was like then. It seems like you're still in a little bit of disbelief even all these years later. What it was like.
Oh yeah, but if I'm talking to you now, I wouldn't have talked to anybody. It's I can't remember the last time I spoke to somebody about it. So I'm surprised actually how much I remember, because offhand I wouldn't remember too much. Obviously, just talking with people obviously steers the memories a little bit. So little moments like that matter a lot. I remember Trevor Birch. Wolves used to come down with Wolves. Wolves just had a very good team there. Steve Bull would have played up front. And he had a great partnership with another centre forward. Damn, I can't remember his name. He was like a Peter Beardsley type figure. He wouldn't have scored as many goals, but they were quite a prolific partnership up front. And they had some good players. Well, Mark Dean has played from, but they had this lad in centre midfield. It was Trevor Birch. I don't know if you remember him. But, and I'm sure if any Millwall supporters do remember him, like, he'd be smiling as I say.
Did he have long curly hair?
Yeah, he'd like a little.
Birch, I do remember him. Yeah,
had that little perm, didn't he?
Yeah.
Little Michael Jackson like blonde perm. Oh God! And every time he got on the ball, he used to get the whistle. Everybody in unison around the ground, they used to get it. I mean, God knows you probably get ejected to get a 2-year ban from the stadium there. God forbid if you actually whistle that to the player nowadays.
Yeah.
But they're absolutely hysterical. People used to just laugh around the place, like even the players used to like smile amongst themselves. And he took it after a while, because it happened a few times. I think after a while he thought to himself, you know what, I might as well just suffer this, just suck it up and play along, because there's no point in getting royal. There's no, you know what I mean? There's no point in playing up to it. It would have been worse. But yeah, even small little things like that, as opposed to kind of maybe the great goals or maybe great performances, just small little moments like that. And the last one I'll say, just off the top of my head, I think again leading into what you just made the last year. When did Teddy leave the football club?
Teddy left. His last year would have been our first year back in the Championship when we made the playoffs and didn't go up. So that would have been 89, 90, 91.
1991. So he wasn't there that first that last year with Mick at the goal then.
The year before he left.
I mean, the year before that, right? Yeah. Gotcha. Because I remember Teddy's last year there, and people would know again. Supporters would know who were season ticket holders that year. Teddy was like Probably my whole career is probably the only example of somebody playing in a team. You know, people say, "Oh, he's head and shoulders."
Yeah.
They say head and shoulders, but yeah, they're probably the best player. But Teddy, when you say head and shoulders, that last year at the football club, he literally was on a different planet. And it was amazing to watch. It really was. I think he scored 36, 38 goals.
Something like 38 goals, I think it was, yeah.
It was a decent amount of goals. But even his performance levels, Dan, he was like, I remember towards the end of the season, I remember games at home, because Teddy dropped off. He used to play in the pockets. He'd come a bit deep because he was that good. He'd link things up. He could score, pretty much do everything. But there was times that last season, he'd be drifting past our midfielders towards our defenders, centre halves, and even full backs. And he'd be taking the ball off the centre halves and spreading balls, hitting 30, 40 yards, like, just give me the ball, I'll get us playing. Then getting up the pitch and doing his thing, which he did. He was playing at such a level that last year. I remember looking at him thinking, oh my God. And like I said, I was still flying down the wing and putting a few crosses in and whatever, he was getting his head on the end. But from a technical point of view, he was absolutely amazing. And we were in the championship, you're right. And the reason why I mentioned it was very early in that season, the fans started this Teddy for England. Teddy for England. The first time you hear it, yeah, all right. He's the best player. Yeah, we all love Teddy, but yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Championship club, you know what I mean? Teddy. I know he's won a but as that season progressed, that chant almost every home game, Teddy for England. Do you know what? Towards the end of the season, I was like, you know what? They're right. They're absolutely right. The level he was playing at, he was an international footballer. He was an England international footballer. He may not have had the jersey on his back. And he had to go to Nottingham Forest for some, and there would have been a period of time before he made that jump. I don't know how long it was afterwards. But that's last year at Millwall, probably the only time in my career I played in a team when a player has been that far now. And that's no disrespect to the players with some talent.
We'll say he's done that in a side as well, with forward-thinking players like Malcolm Allen, Paul Stevenson, Jimmy Carter, and Alex Ray as well. To stand out as much as he did in a load of forwards like that.
Well, my point, I suppose I mentioned, Dan, was the fans recognised it. Fans recognised it before I did. So again, for me, I'll always say, people kind of, very kind of cliched, oh, Millwall fans, you know what they like, they just like it up and at them, and I say, you see, like, oh, shut up, you're talking bloody rubbish. And I always, not that I talk too much about it, but I'd always reference that. I say it was the Millwall supporters who very early recognised his ability, could see in him the abilities he needed to play at the very highest level. And they saw, so they knew the football. They knew the players and they knew the football. And they saw, and that chance started, and at the end of the season, it was everybody in the stadium was singing it, and everybody believed it on the pitch and in the stadium. And that was a bit of his last season there. I do remember that bit of an override. Now, bloody hell. Wow. This is great to see a player operate at this level. I'm talking level of confidence. I mean, Teddy wasn't confidence anyway. Even as a young lad when he came to the club, he could tell that. But at that point, oh my God, it was amazing. It was amazing to watch. But that was just a small little snapshot of that particular season. But yeah, the last one I had, I must admit, was a little bit of a hint. It was a little bit of, a bit of sadness there, without a doubt, for those reasons, leaving it. And even after that, for years after that, even after I left the football club, if I was driving in that area, I'll be driving down to Millwall, because I used to go down to Millwall games. Even after I finished playing football, I'd go down and watch it. Not regularly, but a fair few games. My father-in-law, God rest him, was a massive Millwall fan. He was always a season ticket holder. So I'd go down with him. We parked the car up, as we're making our way down, I'll be like, little detour, just do a little detour past you.
That's where it used to be.
Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, just have a little, and always have a look at that fecking new cardboard box, fecking housing estate there. Oh, and always, again, your heart would sink. And I think you'd visualise it, you'd visualise the stadium right there. The amount of times I'd walk at the train, ran beyond my way down through the house, under the bridge there. That bridge that was there, you could come up and then this, it was there right in between the housing estates. And
looks like it grew there, didn't it?
Yeah, organically, it came out of the ground almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I could see it, and loads of other supporters would see, but a lot of people won't. Younger people won't. People who maybe moved in there wouldn't have had that picture in the head. And that always messes with me a little bit. That history is gone. Like that, it's almost been wiped.
I know.
It's been leveled. Like, you know what I mean? That's it. It's gone. Like, you can't get it back. Yes, I occasionally just kind of draw. I don't know if I was expecting.
Be there today? Is it going to be there today? Oh, fuck it, it's not there.
Oh no, it was a crying shame. But that's it. Onwards and upwards, I suppose. But yeah, that was it. That was the lead into the new stadium.
Oh mate, that's some really. You could tell you was really invested in them stories for the old ground. That's absolutely fucking brilliant. That So yeah, we moved to a shiny new stadium. First season at the New Den, we under Mick McCarthy made the playoffs again. What do you remember? As much as you love the old Den, what was your first impressions of the New Den?
No, I don't remember that. So talk about the playoffs at Millwall. That first one, funny enough, I'd forgotten under Bruce Rake at Brighton. I was sat in the stand. I was actually with the squad that travelled down to that game at Brighton. We lost the away game, didn't we? And then the home one didn't go great. It was awful. So I didn't play in either of those games. And then the second playoff would have been this one, where Mick won the second season in the
first season back at the new ground. Yeah,
missed out the season before. Yeah. So I'm talking about, say, atmosphere. So the new stadium, we had that opening game against Sporting Lisbon, obviously a bit of a buzz. Yeah, fair enough. But that playoff game against Derby, that was the one. You know, albeit with the first leg, we'd lost 2-0, hadn't played that great. You know, maybe a little bit lucky losing 2-0. Anyway, fair enough. You know, so notice like your positive second leg, you know, full house, we, you know, get a first goal, game on, we can do it. The atmosphere that night, Dan, I don't know if you were there that night, absolutely electric. It was sellout, but it was more than that. It was literally madness. It was the noise coming out of the warm-up. Oof. You could feel it, you know. Oh, bloody hell, you know what I mean? It was palpable. It was like weighing on your shoulders. It was like, whoa, this is great. I was a bit older then. It wasn't a case of, oh no, I'm breaking it now. I could kind of handle that a little bit better. Yeah. But the problem was, of course, just the game went so badly for us. Like, instead of getting the first goal, we conceded the first goal. I mean, they had a decent team actually. Paul Kitson played up front, and Tommy Johnson wasn't. That was it. I've forgotten his name. He was a good player. Left foot player, very good. Kitson was a good player, good goal scorer. And they scored early and pretty much killed it. Dan, to be honest, we were 3-0 down then. They might have got a second goal before half-time as well. So really it was like flat as a pancake, you know what I mean? And obviously then supporters came onto the pitch. It wasn't bad, Ryan. Just a few of them came onto the pitch. We had to leave the pitch, sit in the stadium, wait till they cleared the pitch. So that was horrendous, pal. Sitting in the dressing room, knowing the dream was over. No, we had to go back out on the pitch and go through the motions. So to be honest with you, that was pretty horrible. I've got to be honest with you. That was this from a night that started so well in terms of the expectation. We can do it. Here we go. Get the crowd behind us. And we had a good team, obviously. The reality was we just didn't perform. The two key games that mattered, home and away to Derby, they were the better team. They were the more clinical and probably handled the occasion better than we did, if the truth be known. So no complaints, but bit devastating. I'm talking about not being as devastating when we went down that first year. That was probably my first experience of, do you know what, this is really cutting. You know what I mean? You know, we've missed out here an opportunity in the Premier League and the whole shebang. And probably me playing more of an integral role in the team, you kind of feel it a little bit more as well. So that was tough. The season was great. We played well. I think we all enjoyed our football. I think fans alike made it into the playoffs, but just couldn't produce. And when it mattered, unfortunately, you know, we weren't the first, we won't be the last. Couldn't find that maximum level in terms of performance when it really mattered. So no complaints, but it really hurt. But again, starting next season, Dan, I couldn't say honestly there was a hangover. You know, we lost a lot of players. Again, we would have maybe small turnover, but the main group would have been the same. I was still enjoying my football, you know, still going forward thinking, well, I'm improving here, boom, boom, boom. And still thinking, yeah, we can do this next year. Off we go again. So that was the kind of mentality going into the next season.
Well, by this point, so that the next season, which was your last season at the club, we've got Ben Thatcher in the squad. Andy Roberts is the first team regular, although he had been for a couple of years. Mark Kennedy. What were these boys like? Was you close to them off the pitch?
Yeah, I would have been. They're still drinking more than me, even at that.
They're drinking your quota as well, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. No, they were great, them lads. They were great. Actually, I only spoke to Ben Thatcher a couple of weeks ago. I haven't spoken to Andy for a long time. I think he's still over in Kent Way. I think funny enough, his boy plays football in Bromley. I might be wrong there. Somebody was telling me. Mark, I've actually spoken to a couple of times over the last couple of years as well. But those lads were great. That group, I spoke with them. That group of players, they were very tight. That youth team, they were quite successful. Did they win a youth cup? I'm not too sure. That they kind of progressed quite well, did they?
They won one cup against Arsenal, and then they lost to Man United in the semi-final. We've heard some outrageous stories on Ben Thatcher. He's absolutely off his canister, isn't he?
Yeah, but great lad, very very talented footballer. That's the first time. I always mad stuff. But I say but his impact on the pitch, excellent player, great defender. I would love him to have had his lower body. I spoke about me and saying physically not his lower body. Because Ben, even 17 years of age, Ben, quads, hamstrings, calves. It's you couldn't looking at 40-year-old man if you didn't look at his face. You know what I mean? He was developed really at a very powerful, very strong, and a very good defender. Loved his defending, very tenacious. Yeah, decision making at times got the better of him. Got a few more yellow cards, red cards, maybe when he should have. But his basic principles as a defender, he was very strong, and I loved him for that because I loved me defending. You know what I mean? I just didn't have those attributes. Maybe different type of attributes to Ben, but I loved that, the kind of aggression which he had, hated being beaten in 1v1, getting tight to people, kind of making tackles. And we saw him develop as well, adding an attacking dimension to his game. Mark was totally different, obviously, wonderful talent.
What a player.
Oh my God, that left foot. It's an absolute wand. Honest to God, it was brilliant. And Andy was very mature football in between his ears. In a very young age, very good understanding of the game, read the game very well, played in that holding position, but played like an old man at 22, played like a 32-year-old at 22. That's why Mick played him. He trusted him. Very good, very well disciplined, read situations, could cover for people, kept the game simple. So their footballing attributes are the one things that I remember. But we all kind of lived reasonably close. We're kind of Kent boys. We're kind of Ben, Andy, even Mark to a certain extent. We kind of lived in kind of not too far apart. So there was a little bit of that golf course, not so much on the social side because they were young, so they were doing their own thing. Well, I would have been into too much of that madness. No, good humour and stuff, but they were young kids and enjoying themselves and all that. And yeah, a little bit of madness on the training pitch as well, probably Ben in particular. But that was great. I love seeing young people with kind of personality actually making a contribution to the dressing room. I didn't do that at their age. I was hiding in the corner, sucking me thumb, at my age, they were like, "Oh yeah, giving it some. Yeah, you can have some. Yeah, take some of that. Way, yeah." Do you know what I mean? A little bit silly or whatever at times. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. So kind of showing a bit of personality and kind of really making the kind of environment is what we all enjoyed. So they were actually great though. And funny enough, coincidentally, the lads you mentioned there, Ben, Andy and Mark, they ended up with me at Wimbledon. Cool. Down the road. They all made their way over. And at some stage, Joe Keane, the manager, asked me about them all when he was thinking of bringing them over. And the answer would have been the same. You got to get him. Yeah. Too good. And I wasn't saying go and get him because he's a head case and he's a this and he's a that.
Three brilliant players, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to make us better. And that's when they did take the piss, to be honest with you, because I was elected chauffeur for about 3 years at Wimbledon. Because none of us had moved over. So I was picking them all up, heading over there, M25, A3, we always talk about it, bringing them back or whatever. They had a couple of lads and a couple of drink driving bands in the meantime as well, so they couldn't. So I was literally picking them up and putting them in the back seat. So we had quite close over the years, and that was probably at Wimbledon, probably more so. But even at that age of Wimbledon, that year, like I said, for that last couple of years, they were coming through, and that was great. I loved that, seeing younger players. I wasn't that old myself, don't get me wrong, but I always had that growing up. I used to love to see the younger players coming through and making an impression, and actually always tried to help them. I always felt as if I needed to try and make that transition as easy as possible for them, because I maybe didn't have a huge amount of that in terms of the older players at the football club. But it was a different time, like I explained. It wasn't our badness or anything like that, just the way it was. Kind of, hard school, like you learn the hard way,
Yeah.
It was a little bit different. 4-5 was changing a little bit. I always felt as if I always like to make it a little bit easier for those young lads to make that kind of transition.
It was a funny time at the club. You had the younger players coming through very good. You had your stalwarts there, your rhinos, you by that point as well, Alex Ray. And then you also had you mentioned him briefly, a very strange influx of foreign players. Casey Keller, John Kerr, Bruce Murray, Etienne, Vivia. I always like to find out what people's thoughts were on them sort of guys, like what they like. Because obviously, you famously, the boys all said Kenny didn't drink, but he's great crack. So what was Etienne like? What was Keller like? Oh, I don't know, because they didn't come out, so we don't really know. So I'm wondering if you might be able to shed a bit of light on what Etienne was like, what Casey was like.
No, I found the lads sound, to be honest with you. No, I take the lads' point there. Like, that might have been fair enough in terms of, I think that's a natural thing to a certain extent, especially a lot of American lads coming in. There's a natural, isn't there, pull towards each other, like in terms of that. And they would have had partners. I think they all had partners who knew each other, wives, kind of girlfriends. So it would have been a case of maybe their environment brought up, go out for a meal with the girls as couples, as opposed to, right, lads, park your car up outside the pub. If you're picking up tomorrow afternoon, done. Yeah, all aboard type thing. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just a different environment. So I wouldn't be overly like critical. I would have got on well. The lads, everybody would have got on well together. But maybe they didn't have that interaction with the lads, maybe off the pitch. But I thought they were sound. The lads were sound. Everybody has their own little idiosyncrasy.
Oh no, the boys said they was good as gold, but we didn't really get to know them too much because they weren't really involved in getting drink driving bans and jumping off bridges and things.
You're absolutely right. But that's, for me, that's what makes it. You can't have everybody on the same level. You know, 20 like absolute head cases in the dressing room. It doesn't work.
Of course.
It can't work, like, you know what I mean? The dynamic has to be right, like, you know what I mean? So it's no bad thing. Remember John Colquhoun came down from, we talk about the Scottish Brigade coming down, John McGlashan, John McGinley. John Colquhoun came down, very good football. I don't know if you remember him, kind of wide field player, but kind of very stylish. But John was kind of very academically, very intelligent, very well read. You might say very well rounded, right? So you throw John into that environment that's dressing him in Millwall. So people would have been looking at John. I remember John having conversations with people, like, giving it the old double take, like, what's this fella? What's he talking about? Like,
what was he quoting Shakespeare or something? What was he on about?
He won't say, well, yeah, he might be talking about this and that, a book he'd read, opera, or writers, or really? Just coming at stuff from a different angle. Like, yeah, so I'd be a little bit quite engaged, like, you know what I mean? But a few of the lads would be, holy jays. Now, he wouldn't have been out drinking, you know, he wouldn't have been sharing spiked drinks with me down the gym palace, like those nights down there. Don't get me wrong. But for me, there was always a place for that type of person. Like, those type of person, the yin and the yang, that kind of worked for me. And I actually John out quite a lot, to be honest with you, because he could have bent an awful lot, because he would have got a bit of the, listen to you, rah, rah, rah. But he didn't back it. He was always true to himself. He was kind of confident enough in himself to say, well, hold on, this is me.
That's what I'm not about the other thing. I'm not about shitting in cups. I'm about a little bit of opera.
I take you. Yeah, I don't judge you. I'm enjoying your company, but this is me. I can't pretend to be somebody else. So I got a little bit of that off, and he did it in a nice way. Like, he wouldn't talk down. So I kind of appreciate that. So that kind of fascinated me a little bit in terms of the dressing room. All these different people. Jeez, he's great, mad. Oh, how funny is he? Never get a word out with him. He's a little bit left field. Etienne Viville was one of them. A little bit. If somebody had said, like, 10 years after he left the football club, you know, they sliced Etienne. God rest him. He passed on. They sliced him out. He was an alien. He was actually an alien. I would have thought, you know, I believe that. I would have believed. So he was that type of mad quick. You're not really sure what was going on. Like a mad little look, funny, loved to laugh and all that type. But no, someone you couldn't really pigeonhole or kind of couldn't get on the same wavelength of. He was in his own.
Like the other boys' banter. He must have not really known what was going on, mustn't he?
No, exactly. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. You have to feel for them people they're coming into that type of environment. Not even the language is an issue. Although the Dutch lads, to be fair, like very, very good anyway with the language. So. Yes, for me, that was all good. That was all I actually enjoyed. That kind of fascinated me. I was a little bit intrigued with that. But you're right. Those characters you mentioned coming in were great. I loved them, like, you know what I mean? And that's why when I eventually did leave, it was such a hard decision. When it came, it happened very quickly in terms of the move. It was a real wrench. And that was an obvious thing to say. It's an easy thing to say, oh, no, I didn't want to go. It was such a hard decision. You know what I mean? Playing up to the crowd, I can honestly say, Dan, there was a point that I thought, no, I'm not going. I won't be going. I couldn't bring myself. I couldn't visualize myself outside of the football club. I really couldn't. That group of players was still there. I don't know who'd come in that following season, that second season.
I'll tell you who did come in, before I forget it. Dave Savage came in. And he told some great stories on you.
Well, of course. And I tell you who else came in, Tony McCarthy. Another Irish fella had come in probably previously to that. Tony didn't play a lot of games. He was at the club for maybe a year now. He moved on, played with Colchester, and actually went back to Dublin, had a career back in Ireland, and actually retrained as a physiotherapist, very successful. Done great, Tony. But Tony was there, and Sam came in. So that was that bit of an Irish contingent almost then, a little bit as well. We spoke about Scottish, American. So all of a sudden, a couple of the Irish lads there.
Cool.
And obviously Mark was there as well, Dublin lads as well, Mark. Would have gone well with Dave as well. So, yeah, so again, that bit of a pull. You're talking about the Americans pulling together. It wasn't a case of, the Irish Brigade or anything like that, because, we loved, everybody loved the dressing room. We all got stuck in. But there's that natural little pull, isn't there, to your somebody who grew up 10 minutes down the road from such and such and whatever. So all of that mixed in, but the start of that next season, it was November when we moved. Yeah, I do remember thinking, I'm not gonna bother, because literally it wasn't a big move in terms of money. I wasn't earning that much more. Maybe a couple of £100 more I was earning at Wimbledon, and I just couldn't. I was enjoying my football that much for the reasons that I've said. And it was probably, do you know what it probably was? It was probably the fact that we went together. Johnny,
I did ask John that. Johnny Goodboy, I did ask him. Yeah. Was it a bit of like, if you go, I'll go sort of thing? Especially being someone like you come across in this interview is not, not overly confident in yourself, and to have that little buffer of someone to go with you.
I think it was almost a subconscious thing. We didn't say that. You going, because you're not going to, I might have said it kidding around, but I think there was almost a bit of a subconscious thing to it. Because it was like, I think the fee was 1.3. At the time, I thought they'd give me away. I thought it was just a case they would throw me in just to sweeten the thing. Because people used to say, is there a fee? I always said, no, I think the fee is goodie. They're paying 1.3 for goodie, and I think they just throw me in.
Let him bring his mate, come and fuck it. If you bring his mate, he can come.
Exactly. That's kind of what I thought. I was only years afterwards, I kind of, you read between the lines a little bit. I spoke to Goody and a few other people, and I think it was about 800,000 for John and like 500,000 for me, which I was like amazed, $500,000. I thought, wow, that was amazing. Like, but at the time, I was thinking, I'm just cheese on top here, me. But it was tough. A couple of days, and Mick was great. And he said, look, the bid's been made. I don't know what the situation was with the football club, Dan, because obviously money must have been an issue. I know it's the same for every football club, but it wasn't like 10 million.
I think we went, obviously, the first year at the new den, we nearly made it, didn't we? We nearly went up, and I think a lot of money was put into that. And when that didn't happen, and the little bit of the trouble after the Derby game didn't help, I think Captain Morgan, one of the other boys, said, because of all the Derby thing, the playoffs, their goalkeeper getting attacked and whatever, Captain Morgan pulled out a sponsorship, and we needed money.
You might be right. It might have been that maybe the wage bill, all those things factored in. Look, we need to find a bit of cash from somewhere. It might have been that. But it surprises me because we reasonably young, like, you know what I mean? And something, you keep your best for as long as you can. That sort of. And Goody was flying at the time. Goody was scoring goals and was like a big asset to the team. So we did mull over. I don't know how long it took, but Mick was grand. He said, look, there's been a bid. The club's accepted it, but ultimately it's your decision. If you want to stay, great. Have a think about it. And I did wrestle with it. But you're right. I think subconsciously the fact John was going. But I think probably, in all honesty, I think it was just that step up, that Premiership, an opportunity to play in the Premiership, Dan. I'd been, 5.5 years at Millwall. Loved it. Couldn't see myself anywhere else. But when a bid like that comes in, I suppose, and it's accepted as an opportunity to go, because I was never linked with clubs. I never remember having that mindset, I wonder what will happen. Or it kind of makes you think a little. You've got to make a decision, haven't you? So it kind of makes you think, take stock of things a little bit. So maybe then it was a case where 5.5 years, it's been great. Premiership, yes, it can happen. Of course it can happen here. And Millwall, get my head down. It could possibly happen, but it may not. And, what about if you end your career and you haven't had an opportunity maybe to play, even for the season, at the highest level, just have a taste of it, just to see, can you survive up there in that environment with those type of players? That kind of bit of a draw. So you start asking those questions at that time for obvious reasons, because the bid's there. And it was probably just that in the end. It was probably just that knows it. Probably John going and the fact that just test yourself. Although maybe every bone in my body was screaming, "Oh, stay where you are. You're comfortable here. Yeah, you're accepted here. Fans, the whole shebang."
The South London press always gives me a 7. I can just stay here for it.
Yeah, I've got the albatross on side. No one likes it. Yeah. I'll be writing an article there in a year or so. We put myself in Millwall's all time at best 11. Yeah, so all of those things, that kind of comfort zone, and I loved it. Like, you know what I mean? But for some reason, whatever it was, maybe one bone in my body's went, "No, test yourself. You know, push the envelope out. Just, you know, take a chance. You know, take a step out of that comfort zone." Maybe it was that ultimately, but it was tough. It was such a tough decision, packing my bags and like, oh.
I always finish with 2 questions. The first is, in your 5 years at Mill, obviously you can just tell you loved it. You had some brilliant times. If you could pick one standout memory from your time at the club, I should probably give people a heads up before I ask this question. I'm going to ask this question because Malcolm Allen was like, I had to cut it down because Malcolm Allen was like, there's so many. If you could pick one standout memory from your time playing for the club.
Do you know what moment I'd actually pick? I'd actually left the club. We travelled down to Cardiff. Myself, my wife, my father-in-law, like I said, it passed a couple of years ago, and a good friend of his for the cup final. Millwall and Manchester United. And you know what? It was amazing because my father-in-law had always said a dream of his father had always been seeing Millwall in a cup final. And that was always his. He always used to say, "Oh, Millwall in a cup final." Now, obviously, he didn't see it. My father-in-law never thought he'd see it. But that season, we actually went up to the semi-final. We actually went up to the semi-final at Old Trafford. Was it a Sunderland game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Up to that. And we ended up getting our tickets. And that day out down in Cardiff, the cup final, it was magic. I mean, didn't have a hope winning.
No.
Nobody expected it. Nobody, never going to win the game. That was accepted. But the journey down, and the motorway, the buzz outside, the chit-chat, the atmosphere inside, that kind of Millwall had a cup final, and we took a few photos, and it was the whole thing. But I must admit that day, and that was I was away from was I actually finished playing then? I would have been even finished playing.
2004.
Was it 2004?
2004, yeah.
I was still playing. I was up at Birmingham, believe it or not. Yeah, but yeah, travel down, and that was that was a great day. Probably more so for me father-in-law, and obviously, yeah, Mill, I want them to win. It was great, but just to be, you know, in the car, driving down to Cardiff.
So your father-in-law is a Millwall fan.
He was,
yeah. So obviously you've met a local girl whilst over in England.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he was a massive. Yeah, that was just coincidental. Obviously, he was in Millwall support. He was like years like Millwall was in the family. So yeah, he was absolutely regular. He loved it. He absolutely loved the football club.
What did he make of that when his daughter come home with the right back?
Yeah, I'm not too sure to be honest. I'm trying to think about how he still had the curls you're talking about then. I might have done. I don't know to be honest. He didn't give much away, my father-in-law, honestly. But Millwall in the cup final, I must admit, that year semi-final, cup final was great. And Millwall in the cup final, and they had a couple around there, didn't they? Because we ended up in Wembley Stadium a couple of times. It would have been playoffs then, wouldn't it?
2008, 2009.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, because Youngflow was born 2009. Jesus, he was born in April. He was at one of the games. Like, he was only a baby in arms. Like, that picture, he's asleep, and my wife's holding him. He's asleep in her arms. Like, everybody's up. I think Millwall had scored. Who got that amazing goal? Was it that?
Gary Alexander, yeah.
Yeah, it might have been that.
Yes, we lost 3-2 to Scunthorpe, yeah.
A couple of times Millwall there. I've ended up at all of those games.
You love Millwall so much, you married into it.
No, I'm not gonna claim to be like, oh, Millwall, don't get me wrong. But those, yeah, for natural reasons, we ended up at the cup final. I'd have to say the cup final, because in terms of my playing career, like, because we didn't have the kind of success obviously I wanted, right? So obviously I don't like talking. I don't talk about my career too often, Dan. To be honest, I don't enjoy it because invariably when you start digging down into it, it's kind of bittersweet. We're talking about a lot of good times, and it's great, it's fantastic, but it's very bittersweet a footballer's career unless you're at the very elite level. So we've already talked about relegation that fourth season, missing out on that playoff at Derby. Maybe we'd have gone up instead up. I wouldn't have left Millwall. Who knows after that? You know, experienced relegation after that with different football. I experienced that at Wimbledon and at Birmingham, believe it or not. You know, so there, that's kind of it's kind of gut wrenching, really. When you start you're talking about thinking your good days and the bad days aren't too far behind. So to be honest with you, I try not to think that one great moment immediately, because bad moments kind of filter through almost like without me knowing. So I couldn't pick one. I couldn't pick one more because we hadn't got that one day, Dan, that promotion, did we? We didn't have that. We made the playoffs. Even the teams after me made it to Wembley, a cup final. I'm sure
the nearly men.
Sure, lads will say, "Oh, the cup final, yeah, we got lost," but the road there was brilliant. Oh, that Gary Alexander goal, we were part of that. Oh, it was amazing. I didn't. You know, I had to like chin on the floor, heading back into the dressing room with the new down when the fans were on the pitch in the game we'd lost out. Do you know what I mean? I had those kind of sitting in the stand of Bright when we missed out on the playoffs. So I'd really have to encapsulate it. I'd really have to put the whole thing together as I kind of described to you there, just in terms of me general experience there, because that's kind of where I kind of grew up. I had my education there as a footballer, and to a large extent really grown up as a person too. So yeah, so that's what kind of made it unique. I didn't have that anywhere else. That was pretty unique to those 5.5 years that I had at Millwall. Good and bad, but that's it. That's the way it is. So I'm sorry, I can't help you. It's a pretty boring answer, but
no, it's fine, mate. It's been brilliant. Listen, the final question. The final question I always wrap with. We might have to go about a different way about asking this question, because my final question usually is, if you could have one last night out with 3 of your ex-Millwall players, who would it be? So my question, I'm going to change slightly. If you had to go tomorrow for one last night out, you're the designated driver, who would you be most worried about thinking, fuck, I'm not going to get my car home here? 3 Millwall players. Who are you most worried about chaperoning for one night?
People are
you're the designated driver, and there's pick Millwall, three Millwall players that you think, oh, I don't want to be taking these 3 out tonight. I might not get in motorhome.
Well, I never had that feeling. I've got to be honest with you, because I love the lads. Well, you're right. You know, it's like drink. I've seen it all. Drink affects people differently. Even the kind of the calmest, most introverted people, a couple of drinks on them, absolutely nut jobs. You know what I mean? You just can't. You just can't control. So I probably in a night. It's the people that I knew. You've mentioned Ben, so Ben had this bit of a reputation, but he was kind of harmless enough. But he could. There was a bit of madness there with Ben. No doubt about it. Mark, to be honest with you, Mark had his moments as well. Mark Kenny was a little bit softer, but Mark as well could be pretty much hard work. They were the lads I kind of maybe knew best. Davy Thompson, I've mentioned, Newcastle lad. You remember the big beanpole centre half? He played a couple of games.
Sit back here.
Yeah. Now Dave was a real character as well, even without a drink, but with a drink as well. Dave was great entertainment. He probably just wouldn't fit into the car. He wouldn't fit into the micro the size of 6'6".
Was he really?
Dave was bigger, maybe not 6'6", maybe 6'3", 6'4". But he was great. I suppose maybe those lads I've spoken about, I've spoken about those the older lads at Millwall. So I'm saying I drove a Gavin Maguire. Gavin Maguire gave me a lift once from Millwall's training ground in Avery Hill in Sidcup to the Old Den. We were going to the Old Den. We were driving down for a meetup or something, and he had a Golf, like an old Golf. And I was like, "Oh, Gav, I don't know if I maybe even drove the time. Would you bring me going down to the, I had a chance for?" Yeah, I jumped in, right. So I'm not being funny. It felt, I'd say about 12 minutes later, and that's a fair old hit from Sidcup to the new Den. We screeched into the Old Den, and there was probably the only time in my life I thought, I'm not going to get out alive. And so you're talking about players getting into my car. That's the only car I got in in my whole career and thought, if I had to put money down now, I'm actually not going to get out of this car. He drove. It was like Fast and Furious. Seriously, he drove at his speed and took as many risks in the car in that journey that, honest to God, I literally couldn't speak. I held my breath down for about 12 minutes. When I got out of the car, I was literally thought, oh my God, thank God I made it out of this car. So I wouldn't have known the likes of Gavin. I'm presuming kind of hardened, like a dream, wouldn't back off, kicked off, maybe like whoosh all over. If you're saying 3 people I'd like in my car, if I bumped into somebody in front, and
I like the way you swung the question.
you have wrestlers get out and start walking towards my car, I'd want Terry Hurlock, Pat Vanden Howe, and Gavin Maguire in the car with me. Yeah, maybe put it that way.
You'd be like that as well. Go after the geezer. Come on in. Come on.
Yeah, that might be a little bit easier. The rest of the lads were great. I never had a time where I thought, no, listen, forget it. You jump in the cab, you're not coming. You never got anybody loose. Never leave anybody behind, Dan. Never leave anybody behind. It's an unwritten rule. You know that. That doesn't just go for football. That just doesn't go for this estimate. Never leave anybody behind.
Kenny, honestly, mate, it's been absolutely brilliant. It's without doubt the longest Lions Lounge we've ever had. We've been going nearly 3 hours. But mate, I've laughed all the way through. You are an absolute top man, and I really appreciate your time.
I've enjoyed that. Thanks for the time. Thanks for the reminiscing. Yeah, a lot of stuff there. I thought I might struggle, to be honest with you, because
you said that to me earlier. Like, no chance.
Yeah, but no, it's good. It's funny, isn't it? You start talking, and somebody obviously gives you a bit of information, and it obviously triggers the old memory box. So, yeah, it's nice. It's nice to relive some of those memories. It doesn't happen. Probably doesn't happen often enough.
Brilliant, mate. Honestly, really appreciate your time, Kenny. Thanks a lot. Number 18. Save the best till last.
I believe it. See you later, lad.